Now, on our feedback, we have marks out of five stars. What would you give us?
Oh, 5.
5.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome, everybody, to Expert Tips for Buying and Renting Property in Portugal. And our very special guest tonight from Savvy Cat Real Estate, it is Ana Caramujo. How are you, Ana?
I'm good. Actually, it has been a very stressful week, and I'm going out to Bairro today. I'm actually not usually a very night out club kind of person, but you know, everybody's telling me I need to go to Bairro, and I need to go to Bairro. So it is what it is.
That's after the show. You're going out partying.
Yeah, no, well, I'm having a few drinks. I don't plan on getting wasted.
Okay, excellent. Yes. Exercising, I think, continental drinking rules and restraint there, as is the way over here in Portugal. Very good. Thanks for being with us tonight. Do you know, we spoke 2 months ago. And well, I was thinking, we've only just spoken recently. It was 2 whole months ago.
It was 2 months ago. Are you sure?
On the evening session, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes, absolutely. It was back in May that we spoke. And I think probably things have changed quite a bit in this fast-moving property scene over here in Portugal, certainly in the capital. How have things been for you in the last 2 months since we last saw you?
Actually, in the last 2 weeks, well, until this Saturday, I'm in Lisbon. And one of the reasons I decided to come and spend 2 weeks in Lisbon is to get updated on everything, because, you know, Lisbon is a fairly fast-paced city. And I'm actually not very much a Lisbon person, and I needed to get a better vibe for it. Because the truth is, I have a family house in Lisbon. It's where I'm staying right now. And I would come here every now and again, mostly to go to specific events and restaurants and that kind of thing. And I had some bad experiences here in Lisbon in my teens, which led me to kind of avoid Lisbon. And I think the city it's different now. I'm liking it better now.
Yes, I was having the very same conversation with somebody this morning who first experienced Lisbon, I think, in 2008. No, 2003 was their first visit, and they didn't know what all the fuss was about then, but they have since fallen completely head over heels in love. So maybe that's what will happen to you, and you'll be able to right the wrongs of the past and fall in love with Lisbon as well. Your hometown is where? Where are you and your family from in Portugal then?
Well, my father is from Furlan, which is a village near Aveiro, but he was actually born in Porto, but he spent most of the time in Furlan. And my mother was born in Caldas de Rainha and is currently living in Porto. Okay. And I also have a lot of family in Coimbra.
Okay, so
everyone's all over.
Yeah, a bit of a north-south thing going on there, possibly. So Lisbon's got a lot to play for tonight to win back your heart. Have a great time when you go out later on this evening. Tell us a bit about Savvy Cat as well, just very briefly, because I think it might be that there are 1 or 2 people who haven't heard of you. You are a sensation in the real estate industry here in Portugal. Just in case people haven't heard of you, tell us about Savvy Cat and how you got into real estate.
So Savvy Cat was created honestly because I don't like the way real estate operates in Portugal, and I decided to do something different. One of the main reasons is that I believe that the way that the prices have been inflated in the last few years is in a very big responsibility due to the way that the real estate market operates. Because most people here in Portugal, they make contracts with sellers, and then they represent both the sellers and the buyers. And when you are a seller, you obviously want to get the most out of your money. And when you are a buyer, you want to get the best deal possible. And when you are a foreign buyer, you are operating on a completely different market, comparing it to the way things operate in your country that is often very, very different. And people ended up spending a lot more than they should, and prices started inflated very quickly. So one of the motivations behind Savvy Cat was to try and intervene in that and at least get all the information on the buyer side and actually work for the buyer only and make sure they are getting not only what they want, but the actual good deal, and also not getting scammed in any way. So another thing that often happens is people buying places for renovation and then finding out they can't do what they wanted, or buying land thinking they can construct and then finding they cannot do that. So we are here to support in every way so that kind of thing doesn't happen. And in the meantime, we also offer location advisory and support with visas because we worked in the whole country. I have a team that goes from the Algarve to Braga, and we allow our clients to explore different locations when they are not sure where they want to go to.
Okay, excellent. And you say we, who is that team and where are they around the country?
So I have João in the Algarve. He's my agent in the Algarve. Then I have Irina in Alentejo. I have Graciosa in Lisbon. I have Diana in the Caldas da Rainha, Leiria, Nazaré area. Then I have Diogo in the Aveiro and Coimbra area. I have Nuno in the Porto area and Ulisses in the Braga area. Fantastic. And then I have some background admin, that is Katia, the person that replies to everyone's emails to contact, and my content manager, Erika, that takes care of social media and everything visual. And now I have a new member of my team, that is Andrea, that is going to be my number 2 and working with investment. And she's going to help me structure and manage the team and work in investment projects.
Wow. Okay. So that's some really great background for us. Folks, get your questions in. All about the expert tips for buying and renting property in Portugal. As we unfold this journey, this incredible journey actually that you're on, Anna. This expansion has taken place over quite a short space of time, and you got into the industry for the reason you said you want to change it. How's it going? Are you presumably making friends and enemies in the industry by shaking it up?
That's true. I have some agents that I really enjoyed working with, and I have some people that haven't received the model too well. Mostly the buyers usually receive the model quite well. The place where we find the most resistance is usually with agents. Yeah. But we are always very flexible, and we always try to find ways to work with people. Like one of the things that occasionally happens, especially in the Algarve, is agents refusing to share commission. And what we do when that happens is that we negotiate in a way that lowers the price, so our clients never are losing. And this actually works, and in the end, who loses in this model tends to be the seller, and the agents representing the seller get more commission. And honestly, I'm not even sure if the seller is aware the agent is doing that, which kind of bothers me, but well, it's not my client.
Wow. Okay. And so in that journey of wanting to shake up the industry, what have you learned yourself? Because often you have an idea about how it will be. Presumably it's going to plan. You've got some great expansion there. But what new things have you learned and picked up? What insights have you got yourself from this?
Oh, actually, I've been learning a lot about visas and immigration, and CEF has been an absolute nightmare.
Yes. Okay.
And I've also learned a lot more about bureaucracy. I know, you already are expecting things to be hard, and sometimes they can be even harder than you are already counting on. Yeah. And the number of papers that townhouse often in the services sometimes requests is just completely pointless, and you have all kinds of new papers coming in. So I had a really funny one. Last week I had a deed for a client here in Lisbon, and there's this new law where you need to have a certification from the condominium saying there are no debts, which is great. So the sellers, did the certification.
Saying that there are no what? I didn't catch the last part of that.
No debts from no issues, no values left behind on the condominium for the unit being purchased.
Yes.
So this is obviously only relevant for apartments in buildings. Yeah. But nowadays, any apartment in building that you buy, you need to have this declaration. So this declaration is emitted by the manager of the condominium. And it just so happened that the manager of the condominium was the person selling the house. Right. So basically, he had the declaration saying there are no debts, saying the values, everything that is stipulated was there. But they didn't identify the name of the manager, and they didn't, and the declaration was more than 10 days old. So it was nullified, and my client we had to add a clause saying that my client was okay with the declaration not being present, even though it was, but the problem was that the full name wasn't there, and the declaration was more than 10 days old, and it was something like 2 days or something.
Wow. So without your digging around and your sort of forensic level work, this might not have been noticed. So clearly.
This is the kind of things that notaries always go by, but it's very annoying when you discover this kind of things by the end, when, you know, we want to go to the deed, and all of a sudden you discover things aren't right. That's a complicated situation for everyone.
Right. So that's our first expert tip, isn't it? Probably actually the ultimate expert tip is to get a buyer's agent working on your behalf. For those people who are not quite sure about doing that, let's see if we can give them a bit of insight when they're wanting to buy property from afar. How would you rate people's chances if they're having a great time looking on the internet at property listings and they want to make their first move in learning a bit more about it, putting a deposit down? How's that going to go for people, generally speaking?
So the first frustrating part about looking for property online is that there is a way too high number of listings that are no longer available, and that agencies often leave the ads up either because more than one agency is listing the same property and they don't know the other one has sold it, or because they are doing it on purpose to get buyer leads. So this can be a very frustrating thing. And this is something that can happen. Like you call them and say, oh, it's no longer available, but the ad is there.
Yes.
So that's frustrating part number one. Then it's very important to actually go and have someone take a look at the property. I understand for investment purposes to buy sight unseen as long as you have someone that you trust working for you. But I think that for personal use, it is very important for you to actually go to the property and get a feel of what it is to be inside that home and living in that neighborhood. And that is a big part of what we do, is to actually integrate our clients into the places they are moving in and showing them the neighborhoods where they go for groceries, what kind of transportations they have, where the schools are, all of those, living side of things. Because if you're going to live here, it's very different, the tourist idea and the actual resident experience. And it's important for you to know what you're getting into to the most as possible.
Yeah, I imagine there's a Portuguese saying for something like that. The picture postcard version and the real life version. But that's great advice. Where at all possible, go visit the location and get a sense of the neighborhood for yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else then for the person, the newbie, which most people will be, of course, when they're thinking of renting or buying in Portugal? What other considerations might they have?
Well, it's very different to buy an apartment than it is to buy a villa. Especially, and it's also very different to buy in a city than it is to buy in a rural area. I mean, the procedure is more or less the same. You go and see the house, you make an offer, you either reserve or you go straight into the promise contract, and then there's a period until the deed. Some people skip direct to the deed, but it's safer to always have the promise contract than before that. The very big difference about buying in the city and buying in a more rural location has mostly to do with documentation, because usually in the city, all the documentation is more or less in order. If there is an inheritance situation, it may be a pain to get all the people involved to come and sign, or there may be a license that is outdated that you need to update. But generally, you don't have a lot of unlicensed alterations. Okay. While in the countryside, it is a very, very common problem. Yes. And it is also common because in Portugal, you have two regimes of estate. You have the urban estate and the rural estate. And you cannot build or connect utilities in the rural estate. And there is many rural, not rural, but estate properties, lands in rural areas that are mixed. But you only can build in the urban area. So it's very important to know exactly what it is that you're getting. Like just some time ago, we've been looking for, because I have some clients that want to build, and we've been looking for a plot of land for them. And we found something that really matched their requirements. But before they made an offer, we went to town hall to check whether or not they actually could do what they wanted, because that plot was in an area that was a reservation. However, it had a ruin, and any pre-existing constructions you can build in. You can, however, not expand it. But we went to town hall to get all the regulations and see what's going on, and they send us all the information. And there is a bunch of other regulations that would make it very, very complicated to actually recover that ruin, because there were things like you have to be I don't know, I think it was something like 5 meters away from the road because of fire risk and so on. And then you have, a bunch of regulations that made it impossible to recover the ruin, because you went against it, because the ruin was just next to the road. So that's the kind of things that you only find out when you actually go and dig into it.
That's a really great distinction then about the urban and the rural there, and the difference between buying in the big city and further afield. Thank you for those distinctions. I'm sure they'll be of great interest to people. Before we get into some of the more personal questions that people have about their own circumstances and needs, the last time we spoke, we got towards the end of the webinar, and I said, what are the hot areas? I don't mean temperature hot. I mean, but the places that are really special, and those other places that you might not have heard of, or the people tuned in might not have heard of, but you know very well, Anna. And at that moment, I saw everyone come awake on the screen, get their pen and paper, and try to write all the names down of these fantastic places. So maybe we could do that now, and then we'll go to some of the questions, but in a more leisurely way. The areas that people do know about, and maybe a little bit of an assessment, because this is the expert insight we're looking for. How's it looking in Lisbon? How's it looking in Porto? And then maybe some tips on some of those lesser known places. So can we start with the big places where trade is taking place in real estate?
So I'm going to start with a bit of an explanation.
Okay.
So now that I'm here in Lisbon and I've been looking at prices in neighborhoods and so on, Lisbon basically has double to triple the prices that any other location has. In the historic center of Lisbon right now, the average prices are 7 and 8K per square meter. This is completely crazy on a Portugal standpoint. And you don't have those prices anywhere else. I mean, maybe in those very expensive areas in the Algarve, like Monte Gordo and the fancy areas on Vila Moura, but it's like for luxury apartments, that kind of thing. And new construction in Lisbon is currently going between 8 and 10K per square meter. So it's nuts. And as we were discussing in the last 12.9%.
Sorry, can you start that bit again? I got 12.9.
Did you?
We can't have that as a cliffhanger. What is 12.9%?
The inflation in the real estate market in the first trimester of 2022.
Oh, okay.
In the real estate market. And curiously, the only town where the prices went down, it was Lisbon. However, it was 3.1%. So I would say that Lisbon reached a plateau point where it's not really sustainable to keep rising, but I don't really believe it will lower either. So what is happening in Lisbon is that the bubble is expanding. So you have these very expensive locations that only people who can afford, and people start looking in the other areas and inflating the prices in the other areas. So I don't think the price is going down. What I think it's going to happen is the zones of Lisbon that aren't too inflated yet. You still have one or two areas in Lisbon that are like 3 point something K kind of thing. Those areas are going to start getting more investment and start getting more popular, and the price bubble is going to grow. So
have we got any names? Have we got any names on those?
oh, actually, I'm terrible with Lisbon names. I was just discussing that with my agent Graciosa through the week, and I'm not too confident about saying the names
Right,
because I'm still not the most Lisbon person, but I can later show you the graphic from our system, so saying the prices and so on, and you guys can publish it too because it's interesting to look at.
Yes.
But yes, like I said, the price bubble is expanding, and that is what's going to happen in a lot of other locations, because people come to Portugal and they usually, the first thought is Lisbon, not for any other reason than Lisbon being the capital. And usually the logic on people is capital is always a good investment. Well, it depends on the investment. It can be, but you have to do it in a smart way for that to be the case. So what is happening is people are starting to look away from Lisbon because Lisbon is so inflated. I mean, it's on America prices in some levels, and rentals are completely crazy right now. Like, people are bidding for 2,500 two-bedroom apartments. Bidding.
Yes. On the rental. Wow. Okay.
We have like I think the average wage in Lisbon is something like 1,500 euros.
Yes. That's not exactly the sort of home from home we're looking for, is it, for Americans? That the prices are the same. Okay, so that's the picture in Lisbon. Quite similar, though, I suspect. Not as extreme, but quite similar in Portugal, presumably.
No, that's still a very, very drastic difference from Porto to Lisbon. So like I was saying, the historic center of Lisbon, it's currently going at 7-8K. And the historic center of Porto, it's extremely inflated. It was like in the last year, the historic center was going for something like 3.5K, and now you are seeing 5K. So that's a very, very big increase. And I do believe Porto is one of the biggest reasons for the 12.9 inflation, because it rose so fast. But it's mostly the historic center. The bubble is also expanding a bit, but it's not nearly as bad. So you have the historic center that is quite expensive, and then you get the Foz area that always was the luxury area of Porto, which is also going on the 4.5 kind of numbers. But the rest of it, it's between 2 and 3.5K. So it's much lower.
Okay.
And you still are able to make much better and cheaper investments in Porto. And I think there is more options. Well, I wouldn't say there is more options for recovery. Now that I've been around Lisbon, I realize there is a lot of options for recovery too, but they are more expensive. Quite more expensive.
All right.
So,
sorry, go on.
All of this was because you were asking me about the cities that I was recommending, and I was going to say that most foreigners and a lot of people, they come to Portugal and they think of the bigger cities, so Lisbon, then they see the prices in the big city and then, maybe not. And then they start looking into other locations. Usually Porto is the prime suspect, but a lot of people start expanding around. And like I was saying, the prices in Lisbon and now a bit Porto are completely different from any other location. So just the other day, I was seeing with the client, and I've been to Setúbal, and he's considering both Setúbal and Lisbon. And in Setúbal, the prices are in between 1,500 and 200 and 1,500. So it's a complete difference from Lisbon, and you are an hour away from Lisbon. And I do believe that Setúbal can be a very interesting investment location for that reason. Yeah. And like Setúbal, there are other locations that fit that bill. So you have, for talking about the Lisbon area, you have the Santarém on the interior side that also has pretty low prices, and you have Caldas da Rainha that is also still quite low. And if you go to the Porto side, Gaia is very underrated. For there's still a very drastic difference from Porto to Gaia, although it's literally just across the river. So it can also be a very interesting investment location. And then there are cities that are just developing very well, such as Aveiro, that is between Porto and Coimbra. And Aveiro, I believe, is one of the cities that has been doing one of the best efforts when it comes to urban expansion and urban planning. They have been growing, but they have been growing in a planned and ordered way. So you have a very clear aesthetical line, and you have a lot of green spaces and large streets, and you don't see, new villas in small roads with no sidewalks kind of thing. So they also have been investing culturally in the because there's one of the biggest university campus, and the city has been attracting a lot of young families and young people. I would say I'm one of them because I plan to buy there until the end of the year. Another city that has been developing very well is Braga. I've been there. I think that they don't do as much urban planning as Aveiro, but they're not far behind. I would definitely say it's the second best in that area. And it's been the fastest growing city in the past 10 years, Braga. So at the moment, the issue I have with Braga is that there isn't a lot of inventory, but it's still a very good location to invest, I would say. Yeah. Coimbra can be interesting too. I don't think the prices will be going down, but from a city perspective, it's very different from a living perspective. It's a student city, and it gets very noisy and very dirty. And cultural aspects, you have, of course, connections to medicine and music. Coimbra is very strong on the medical side of things, and the public hospital is Coimbra is known as being the best in Portugal. So you have also a lot of medical tourism and that kind of thing. But you definitely get the student experience. Coimbra, you have a Queima das Fitas, and you have the parades, and people taking showers in beer, and you will have students going out every night. So you will have that kind of life, and if you enjoy that kind of life, that is great.
I think Hank has maybe thought he's settled in the wrong place. A shower in beer, you say? That might be appealing to quite a few people here this evening. But it depends whether it's Superboc or Sagres, of course. Those are great. Thank you. Aveiro, I wanted to add, a smart city as well, no less. 5G investment. It's quite incredible what's going on in Aveiro, isn't it?
I think that they have been doing a really, really good effort on urban planning and expansion. And 5G is one of the things.
Yeah, incredible. So Aveiro, Braga. It's interesting sometimes when you say some of the statistics or places, the Zoom seems to have a filter on it that just kind of changes, drops out at those vital moments of statistics and picking the names. This is great expert insight, exactly the sort of thing we're looking for. Do you have any more towns or cities that you want to proffer at the moment?
Évora is one of my favorites. But I think Évora is very good, mostly for retirement, because it's a very charming city, and it has a very good connection to arts and music. But it has terrible public transportation. Okay. And it's very, very hot. And I don't say it's been expanding. I would say it's getting recovered, because you have that typical construction from Alentejo, that is the Arab style construction. So it's mostly low buildings with white and then a color like yellow or blue or green kind of thing. And you also have a lot of monuments. It's a very, very beautiful city. And I don't think it will be devaluing either, but it's a very different kind of vibe.
Okay, and gastronomically,
Yes, yes,
I think there is.
recommendable.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I was going to say you can't really have one of the capitals, but it's certainly high ranking, isn't it, when it comes to food? Evra seems to be making a name for itself in that way. Okay, thank you very much for those first few insights. I'm sure questions that are coming will eke a few more out of the conversation. So, Ewa is here saying, "Hola, Ana. We will be in Portugal in 2 weeks for a month. How can we meet you or your representative?" That's fairly straightforward, isn't it?
Yes, so usually I don't meet with people that aren't my clients yet in person. Usually I always have a call first, so you can book the advisory call with me on my website. It does have a cost, but the cost is deducted from the cost of my packages and services. The reason for this is to filter, and I was getting a lot of people looking for free information, and for free information, you can come to these webinars.
Excellent. Okay. Nicely put. By the way, you're going to have quite a good time, I think, in Barra Alto tonight. For Anna, it was one of her favorite places to go out when she lived in Lisbon. So maybe we'll be able to put that right for you tonight.
I went by during the day and I can see it's quite busy and it does look like it has quite a lot of options and interesting places. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Connie and Hank, we ate at El Gato for supper, and now we're finishing the night with Savvy Cat. What a great way to spend the day. Thank you very much. El Gato, can we say something about that? Some people might think El Gato, that's a cake shop, not the French kind of gato. The cat here is that a famous restaurant in Porto, Anna?
I don't know it. It may be famous, but I'm not really the famous type of person.
All right. Okay. So perhaps it is now, thanks to Hank and Connie. Alexis is here as well. Awesome. I've seen most of the agents are in the highly populated parts. We're headed towards Central and Tamar. So it's good to hear someone is out there for options. That's, of course, Savvy Cat.
Yeah, so that's, let me just barge in a bit. So yes, my agents are usually based in the city because, well, they live there, but we always include a certain number of kilometers, the first from package to package, for actually going to more faraway places, and then clients can choose according to their needs.
Okay, excellent stuff. So Alexa's happy about that. Amit, I don't know if it's a general comment, and even if you want to comment on this, obviously you're not going to be giving financial advice tonight, but it won't have gone unnoticed that there's parity between the US dollar and the euro. Amit's saying, so the exchange rate says move dollars to euros now, but should we also be buying right away? Rates going up from ECB trying to control inflation, perhaps. Do you have a view on that and how that's been working?
Yeah, actually, I've been talking about that a lot because one of the things that obviously crosses over is credit and banks and so on. And I was working with a credit mediator, and I'm now putting it inside my team. So Andrea, my investment person, is going to get credit. Well, she's going to get credit information and work with credits and so on. So we're going to start taking care of that internally. And regarding the question, could you repeat to me? I got lost now.
It's about the dollar euro exchange rate and the excitement that's causing, because it's great, isn't it? People think, yeah, we're going to get loads more euros for our dollars, and I think, if I wait another day, will I get even more? If I wait another week, will I get even more? And it's knowing, I mean, no one's got a crystal ball on this. I don't suppose you have.
No, I don't think it's that would be a thing for a financial advisor. But regarding the property market, I would say right now, probably not the best time, because there is a lot of people in the market that only can come during the summertime, and there is a lot more buyers active. But I would say from September on, things will start to calm down a bit, but they won't be calming down a lot. And it's not like you're going to see the prices going down a lot more, but you're going to see less people active. So it makes things a bit quieter in that way. And another thing that people talk to me about a lot is the real estate bubble burst. That is a lot of people thinking and predicting that may happen. I don't know if you want to hear my opinion on that. It's my own personal opinion. It's not like it's going to be the crystal ball. So
you know what? I'm not even going to take a vote on that with everybody. Yes, we do. Go on.
Okay, so I believe the things will be very different in Europe than they are in some other countries like America. And here in Portugal is what I can tell you about a lot. And I can tell you that here in Portugal, the banks are doing a very big effort on being very strict with credit. So they are not giving money to anyone. And Portuguese people are not too happy about that because it makes it much harder to get a credit. But the positive side of this is it's also that it's much more unlikely to get a real estate crisis, because the more secure the credits are, the less the likelihood it is of a lot of property coming into the market. And that's usually what crashes the markets. If a lot of property from the banks comes in at once, banks stop having liquidity to make new loans, and the property prices also come down because there is so much offer on the market. So I think it's unlikely for that to happen here in Portugal in the next few times. There is a lot of talk of houses coming into the market from people that start being able to afford them due to the COVID crisis. But I haven't seen a lot of them coming in. I don't know if it's still going because everything here in Portugal is slow. But I do believe that it won't be a crash situation. It will be, okay, maybe you will have a bunch of offer that will be very interesting, and I would advise to take it to whoever can. But there also will be buyers for it on the market.
That's a really great insight, Anna. That's really good. The conservatism within the finance here will attenuate some of the worst sort of crashing effects. It sounds like what you're saying, in the way that the United States can be quite bullish, can't it, with its activity? And we've all seen, I think many people here have seen The Big Short and seen how it went last time in 2008. I think there is a protection, something of a protection for Portugal in its how conservative it is with lending. And of course, the buffer of being within the general umbrella of the EU as well, which I suspect will have some sort of.
It also makes things a bit.
Yeah, we'll have there's a buffer there, isn't there, with the EU, I guess. Okay.
And the EU themselves are making pressure towards this scenario, so towards banks being more strict to who they lend to.
Yeah, incredible. So, okay, not financial advice, but some very good insight there. Thank you very much for that. Going back to a previous comment from a previous webinar, Anna says, say Trevor and Shannon. Great to see you guys here tonight. Hi, Trevor and Shannon. You previously mentioned that landlords get a tax reduction when they rent to the same tenant for many years. How does that work?
Actually, you have more than one regime you can take advantage of to get tax reductions. So you have something called controlled rent, which is you can propose your apartment to the controlled rent program. And that means your rent will be capped, but it also means that your taxes will be almost zero. So this is one of the ways that the government is trying to control the rents in the cities. It is more advantageous for people that already own the property than for people that are buying to invest, because, you know, there's the cap. Regarding the rental tax, yes, the renting tax vary according to the time of rental. So for up to 3 years, I don't know if it's 28 or 29%. And then it goes down. There's like 5 different levels. And when it's more, I think it's more than 20 years, it goes down. I think the lowest, it's something like 12, something like that.
Interesting. So, and how great is that tenants are protected in that way, and that there's a long-term vision.
14, see? Someone posted it.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for that. That may have been Anna there who knows about that. But I love that how people are protected, how tenants are protected, and to some extent the landlord as well. And a far-reaching, you know, it's very rare, isn't it, to see any sort of political change or political suggestion that lasts longer than 5 years, i.e., a political term. So well done, Portugal, on that particular issue there. I hope that helps Trevor and Shannon. Anna, is it difficult for Monica here? Is it difficult to find a rental apartment that will accept pets? We often get this question, and I do like the approach here in Portugal. I want to bring my cat with me, but many apartments I see online state no pets. That's not allowed, is it?
No, it's actually there is this whole buzz about it being illegal to not allow pets. It's not true. There was a law proposal to make it illegal, but it was never approved.
Okay.
And even if it was approved, the truth is it's a private contract contract, and the owner can just choose not to rent to that person.
Okay.
So what is happening is a damage situation. So because here in Portugal, the small claims court is kind of a myth. So when landlords have damage, it is very, very hard to actually get paid and sue the tenant and get anything from it. So the landlords are get traumatized easily and are very afraid for damage. And the pets problem, it's mostly because of that. So usually most landlords, especially if it's unfurnished, they will be okay with small pets, but a lot of owners will be uncomfortable with bigger pets and big dogs, especially because they can, scratch the floors and the doors and so on. I actually had a situation like that in Caldas from an apartment in my family, and we had to spend a lot of money to get it fixed. And it's quite unpleasant when it happens. The best way to come around is to offer a second deposit or a pet extra deposit, but the landlord is not obliged to take it. They can take it or not.
And this would be a good case for working through a buyer's agent or a renter's agent, wouldn't it? Someone like yourself, because you can vouch for the person, can't you? You can, if you're trying to make this deal from across the other side of the Atlantic, and you say, I promise my dog's not very big and it's really well behaved. No one's going to know if that's true or not. But if you know them and there's a kind of attenuation,
it's always easier to have someone that knows how things operate here and can communicate with the landlords. Because another thing that you will find on rentals is that in the big cities like Lisbon, you already find a lot of agency listings, but in many cases, it's still directly the owner taking care of the property. And many of them don't speak English. So there will also be the language barrier.
Yes, that could be difficult when you're trying to explain that you've only got a Chihuahua. And then in their mind, it's something quite like a terrapin or something like that they don't want. Anyway, so that's very helpful. I hope that helps you as well, Monica. And rentals, I Neumann. I hope I've got that right. Rentals sometimes do not include a private bathroom or kitchen on Idealista. Same in the Netherlands rental market, but I'm not very clear about it. So you could be thinking that you've got your own self-contained apartment, and when you arrive, you're sharing a kitchen and bathroom with 6 other people. That could be quite a shock. Would you agree with that, Anna?
Yeah, that's the problem with listings in Portugal, is that there isn't a lot of that. Happens both in rentals and in purchase. But the thing is, there isn't there is some legislation, like you have to, the photos have to be true and so on, but there isn't a lot of control. So yeah, it can be a bit problematic. So although it is technically illegal to advertise something and then that doesn't match what you are selling, that nothing really happens in most cases. So it's very important to actually check things. Yeah. And yes, it's not like it's illegal to rent a room without a bathroom. You just have to know about it.
And it's kind of a bit late, isn't it, when you get to meet your neighbors actually in the bathroom?
Yeah.
In the garden. Okay. Question for Anna with Savvy Cat. Our 1-year lease renewal is coming up. If we request a new lease of 5 years, that's a great endorsement of your current life, Trevor and Shannon. If we request a new lease of 5 years with the first year's rent paid in advance, what percentage rent reduction could we request? That's a great question. And that's about the buying power, isn't it? Forward buying power and wanting to make a commitment. Is there some leeway in there, some scope for a discount?
No, there is no legal predefined course of action in those kinds of situations. I can tell you that once you have a year rental, technically by law, the next renovation will be of 3 years unless you restart another lease. Oh. So once that's by law, once you can do like a year rental, and then you usually have an automatic renovation clause. That automatic renovation will be of 3 years. So at the moment, we've also been experiencing landlords requesting bigger contract times. And that is because in Portugal, there is a minimum requirement stay that is of 20% of the time that you contracted plus 3 months. So you have 3 months plus 20% of the time that you contracted. So what happened a lot, because of the medium-term rental problem that we have in Portugal, is that a lot of foreigners rent for a year and then come out after 5 or 6 months once that legal requirement is over. And landlords, in order to prevent that, are requiring longer contracts. So it's kind of mandatory for you to stay there a year.
Okay, very good. Some great detail tonight. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for these great answers, Anna. Alexis, I've seen energy ratings and other listings. And other things, energy ratings and other things on listings. Is there a way to get an inspection of the property to ensure working electrics and check for other issues before purchase? If so, do agents help to secure that inspection? Would you do that?
It's actually mandatory to have the energy certification on both rentals and sales. Oh, okay. And on the advertisements, but on rentals, it's very common for that not to be present, and for landlords even not to have an updated certification. Actually, not a lot of people know it's mandatory for rentals. So the energy certification, it's in itself already engineering verification kind of thing. So it tells you the energy efficiency of the house and what kind of work you can do to make it better. But if you want a private inspection, usually most agencies don't do that. We do that. We always have an engineer or an architect look at the property and give a professional feedback on how things are. Also, if any renovations or repairs are needed, we always get a budget prior to the client finalizing.
Okay, great stuff. That can be organized then by Anna there, Alexis. I love hearing about Portuguese dreams, people's dreams of moving here and what they're looking for. Lisa and Heather share something similar here. I need to find a home to rent that will qualify for my D7 application with a large yard for my 2 medium dogs. She's already said, I probably heard the earlier question. They're medium, honestly. I want to rent for the first 6 to 12 months. Probably going to need 12 months, actually. Then I would like to buy. My dream property would be a farm with several hectares. I need excellent internet since I work via video on internet. My goal arrival is November. Any suggestions for best approach? Would your company be able to help me with this? If so, how do I proceed? Obrigada from Lisa.
Yeah, so regarding rental of rural property, there isn't usually a lot of offers. So that may be one of the issues you have. I don't know if you are open to the whole of Portugal. That will be, of course, it's actually, if you tell us, okay, I want this, but in the whole of Portugal, we won't be looking in the whole of Portugal. We will be narrowing down to like 2 locations and have those 2 agents looking in those 2 locations, because otherwise it's not realistic.
Yeah.
But we will suggest the locations that we think are the most suitable for the requirements you have.
Okay.
So in that regard, the biggest problem we will face is the lack of offer on the market for rural property for rent. And 1-year contract is the regular norm. Most people do 1-year leases, and then there's the renovation period thing, but you can just terminate it once it ends. And like I was saying, you have that minimum stay required. So your requirement is within the general terms of long-term leasing. And I was going to mention something else and I got lost.
No problem. I'm sure if it's important, it will come back to you, or our questioner will reassert the question. Follow up from Trevor and Shannon. With a landlord.
Oh, sorry, I remember. She mentioned how to contact us. So our rental packages can be bought directly through our website. If you just want rental support to find the rental, then we have 2 options. We have the basic and the premium. The basic does not include visitations. It's just location advisory, negotiation, research, and legal advisory. The premium does include visitations and also post-contract support, so to connect utilities and all of that. And then we have the Premium Plus that on top of that includes support with the visa. So if you need to get documentation and all of that.
There you go, Lisa. That's for you. Maybe me mentioning the word landlord did that, helped you remember. If our landlord is currently paying for a property manager, could we recommend that we take over? This is Trevor and Shannon. Could we recommend that we take over those duties as part of the rent reduction? I guess you could. What are their chances, do you think?
Well, it depends on the contract they have with the property manager, because probably the contract will be for the duration of your contract.
Right. Okay. All right. Maybe a conversation, a further conversation, Trevor and Shannon, with Anna could be useful there. Comporta, Gracioso is great, says Kent. Comporta, where Clooney is buying, says Amit. Is there any truth in this rumor? And are you representing him? Obviously, you can't answer that, Anna, but you could wink at us if you are.
I actually didn't understand the question, so I'm good.
Heard of the actor George Clooney?
Sorry?
Heard of the actor George Clooney? Some people here have, and are big fans. I think Anna's a fan. Yes, Anna's a fan. Anna Vieira and Astrid, they know who George Clooney is, and they want to know if he's moving to Portugal at Comporta. Can you confirm or deny? No idea.
I have no idea.
You and me don't care about that, do we? Okay, to Anna from David and everyone. I managed to find a large appointment. Not a large appointment, a large apartment last March with heating and air conditioning. However, shortly after moving in, the heating unit on the wall with an outside power broke down. It's over 18 years old, so no surprise. What was surprising was my landlady wanted me to pay 3,000 euros to replace with new heating and air conditioning units in 3 rooms. Can she legally enforce this? And is it a local custom? I don't think it's a local custom.
No, she cannot legally enforce this. Landlord is responsible for any pre-existing electronics and even furnishings and so on, and any structural damage.
Okay, there you go. I hope that's reassuring for you, David. You are okay, Anna. I will take your reassuring thoughts to heart. Looking forward to meeting you. So you were there, happy customer. In Lisbon, the most expensive locations are Santo Antonio, Avenida Novas, Campo do Rique, Estrela, Avalade, and Misericórdia. There, thank you, Daniel, for that. From Francis, can you explain how the energy ratings work? I recall spending an extremely cold winter in Lisbon. No central heating. You didn't bring enough coats. That's what Lisboetas do. The Alfacinas, 2 coats, 2 scarves, and 2 hats. But anyway, I recall spending an extremely cold winter in Lisbon. No central heating nor insulation, and I do not want to repeat that in my prospective rental apartment. Fair enough. What is energy ratings? Do you recommend to stay warm, comfortable during the winter? It's probably a broader question than that, isn't it?
Yeah,
warm in Lisbon in the winter.
That is something I also talk about a lot, the energy efficiency and quality of construction in Portugal. So up until 2008, the legislation on construction was very shaky and builders kind of could do whatever they wanted. And from 2008 on, the legislation started becoming a lot stricter. So before 2008, you will have anything really. You can have really good construction and you can have really bad construction. It's not, there is not a norm. It's really very much about the quality of work of the builder doing it. And you will have very terrible insulation because a lot of builders were doing it as cheaply as possible. So right. That is one of the problems in this situation. The legislation on construction has been getting stricter and stricter from 2008 on. There's actually a lot of builders complaining about that, but I think it's a great thing. And property that is built from 2010 on, because you have a buffer there, anything that was improved until 2008, but you can start, you can get, the construction license and only start building a bit later. So I would say 2010 on is safe. But before that is very much all over the place, and that is a very typical Portuguese problem of bad isolation. One of the things about the energy certification is that it can be a good indicator, but it can also be tricky in a buyer situation, because the energy certification is very focused on climatization. So if you have a solar panel and a good heating and cooling system, you will have a good energy rating, but you can still have terrible quality of walls and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So it can be a bit problematic in that aspect.
And I would say anticipate a cultural shift. It's not the same as a North European or North American home swap, is it? The insulation standards, how it is in the height of summer and the cold of winter will take some acclimatization. I think. I don't think you can expect the same sort of standards from where you've come from. I think it's fair to say. Just ask my wife about that. But not tonight. So we're talking to Ana Caramujo of Savvy Cat, and we'll take a couple more questions until we go into the more private session where you might want to ask questions. That's why it's a good idea to be here on the actual recording on the Thursday evening with the Portugal calling webinars from expatsportugal.com. Thank you, everybody who's helping everybody spell Evra in probably up later as well. So a couple more questions then. There was one, about the Knights Templar. Probably won't get into that right now, but that's a fascinating question. Francis, that was your question on energy ratings. Oh, yeah, this is a great one from Sandy and Gary. And I think as well, Diane wanted to know about Madeira. Have you got representatives in the Azores or Madeira?
No, at the moment, I don't have any representatives on the islands. I was considering to get someone in Madeira, but my networking really didn't get anywhere. So at the moment, it's still on hold.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that after. And I'd like to put myself forward for the paradise that is Madeira and be your representative, and the Azores while we're about it. Why not? Trouble is, I can't speak Portuguese very well and don't know very much about the real estate market. I'm probably not going to get the job, am I, Anna, with that? But for the time being, Diane and Sandy and Gary, no representation in Madeira. Would it be a complete waste of time to engage you in that way, or could you in some way represent people even in the islands?
I've been trying to do that, but like I said, I haven't found anyone trustworthy in that area yet. So I'm trying to get there, but at the moment I can't help yet.
Tough job. You'll have to fly there yourself. The world, is it?
I wouldn't mind the trip if you're willing to pay.
Right. Okay. So yes, Diane or Sandy and Gary, if you want to pay for the trips to Madeira for Anna to do them, go ahead, make an offer. So Neumann is saying Leiria is extremely bad. No one should go there. Now, often people say this because they want to keep a place to themselves. I think that's probably what's going on with that comment there. And finally, then, just for now, before we go to turn the recording off and go to some of people's own private questions, how long is the average time, Anna, then, to find an apartment for your clients in Lisbon? And it's probably how long is a piece of string sort of question, but roughly speaking, how quickly are you turning around rentals and purchases for that matter?
Okay, so rentals are obviously much faster. One of the problems with the rental market is that things are ridiculously fast-paced. Like you will have an apartment listed for rent and we'll call it 2 hours later and I already have 10 people to visit it. So It's completely nuts in that way. So when it comes to the rentals, it's very much about luck and how fast you are able to find something that is a match and the client is willing to close on. And the process for rentals, I would say it's an average of a month. And I would say that in many cases, sometimes like a miracle happens and you are able to find something in a week. But then you still have to go through the gears of doing the contract and everything. So I usually would consider at least a month for rental. And if you have a very, very specific requirements, always consider more. But there is a problem here in Portugal that is most of the offer is ready to move in. So you will have to be willing to pay for the rent imagine if you start looking now, it's very likely that the contract will start in the 1st of August. And even if you are only coming in October, if you don't pay those months, you're not going to close it. So that's can be a problem here too.
Okay.
So I would say on the rentals, it's usually rather fast. It can be more limiting depending on very specific requirements the clients may have.
All right.
So regarding purchases, it's a much slower timeline. Here in Portugal, things are pretty calm. And even in Lisbon, a fast house sale would be like 1-2 months, and usually things stay on the market a bit longer than that. I would say a minimum of 3 months for purchase, and I would say the usual is more on the 6 to 8 months time frame.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We have satisfied customers of yours in the chat saying it was great, an excellent use of our money. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Somebody saying as well, they brought a 16-year-old cat with them who is not happy about the heat, but the landlord was fine about it. That's good to know, isn't it? There are a lot of kindly landlords. So I've talked to landlords. Can we have our dogs here? Yeah, why are you asking? Of course you can have your dogs here. It's lovely. Very different to where I'm from in the UK. And finally then, Anna, Is the Viking restaurant still a thing or not?
It's still a thing. I haven't given up on it, but as you know, Savvy Cat has been taking a lot of my time.
Yes.
So I haven't exactly had the time to go around to get the Viking Tavern going, but I actually have 2 business partners in that in mind, and my idea is to have someone else managing it. And I've been low-key looking at property in Porto to purchase for it, but I don't have a time frame at all.
Okay, so if Hank just keeps his Viking helmet at the ready, he'll be the first to know with that.
Yeah, I'll definitely will be letting everyone know once it's on the run.
And it happens it's likely to open in the Viking capital of Portugal, which is Porto.
Yes.
Okay, it's good. I'm glad we clarified that.
Actually, there is I can't remember the name of the location now, but there is it's near Vila do Conde. There is a location that used to be a Viking settlement and even had an original set of rooms.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. That's a bit of a warm up for you. You can visit that, Hank, in the meantime. Thank you for asking that question, and thank you, Anna, for taking all these great questions tonight and answering so brilliantly. You can find Savvy Cat and Anna and her team in our business directory at expatsportugal.com. Thank you so much. We'll stop the recording there, and we'll go to a few more questions.